Mic check 1 2. Don't be alarmed. This is not a video from 2002. Yes, you are still in 2024. It just so happened that I decided to connect my PlayStation 2 so that I could take advantage of some of the games that I have in my collection, but also because I wanted to watch The Matrix. And unfortunately, I do not have a DVD player. And so my next best option was to play it on, or actually watch it on my PlayStation 2. But once I got the PlayStation 2 connected, I said, you know what? I want to go a few rounds with a few games that I have in my collection here. And I started off by playing some Castlevania Curse of Darkness. Now, this is actually a pretty cool game. I'm just showing you some gameplay footage here. It's so funny how stiff the characters used to move. And no, you cannot run off the cliffs. That's the only thing that it stops you from doing that. But as you can see, the PlayStation 2 graphically, I mean, are we that far off from the PlayStation 3? And we already know how close PlayStation 3 graphics are to PlayStation 4. So I'd have to say, you know, graphically, the PlayStation 2, it was leaps and bounds ahead of anything that we saw on the PlayStation 1. And at the price point that you were able to get a PlayStation 2 for, I would say that the graphics were definitely impressive. Now, in terms of the catalog, you definitely had the opportunity to take advantage of a whole host of different types of games. Obviously, you see here, I've got Castlevania Curse of Darkness, which is pretty much a hack and slash action game. I guess you could say it's an action RPG. We have another action RPG here. Both of these are from Konami. Are you starting to notice a trend here? Ys Arkham Nepishtim. I am a fan of the Ys series. I do have Ys 8 and 9 on the Nintendo Switch, but for a lot of folks who've been playing the Ys series going all the way back to the Genesis and the Nintendo days, Arkham Nepishtim was definitely a classic on the PlayStation 2. But you also had other types of games. The PlayStation 2 was home to many of the greatest fighting games of its era, including my favorite fighting game of all time, Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Now, this isn't the most nostalgic version of Marvel vs. Capcom 2 to play. For me, you know, it's going to be the Dreamcast. I have it on the Dreamcast, and the Dreamcast for me is going to be the most nostalgic way for me to play Marvel vs. Capcom 2. But the most comfortable way to play Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is definitely going to be on the PlayStation 2 because of the beautiful DualShock controller, which in a lot of ways Sony still uses to this day. The one thing I can admire about Sony is that they took something that wasn't broke and did not try to fix it. I'll say that again. They took something that was not broke and did not try to fix it, meaning they never really felt the need to reimagine their controller. This was the basic outlay or outline for the Sony PlayStation controllers, pretty much from the first one all the way up to the third one. And even if you look at the DualShock 4, even the DualShock 4 maintained the majority of the form factor that we see here on the PlayStation 2 controller. It's not until we get to the PlayStation 5 that we see Sony try to do something different. I have not played a PlayStation 5 yet. I don't even think I've held a PlayStation 5 controller. But my mind is telling me I highly doubt it's going to be as comfortable as the PlayStation 2 controller. If you're a fan of the Sony PlayStation's controller, everything from the PlayStation 1 to PlayStation 3, let me know down in the comments. Because in my opinion, this is the greatest controller ever made. It's super comfortable. All of the buttons are right where you need them to be. It gives you the combination of the D-pad, which I love, especially for fighting games. You've got both analog sticks, which are great. These controllers are tough as nails. I mean, I would say that these controllers, for a controller that includes an analog function, these controllers are super durable as long as you're, you know, not stepping on them and running over them with your car. And then even just the placement of the buttons. I think it's, you know, instead of using A, B, and C, which, you know, can kind of be, you know, like if you don't follow like the US alphabet, A, B, and C might not mean nothing to you or mean anything to you. But everyone understands what a circle, a triangle, a square, and an X is. I think that's something that's universal across the globe. And I think just the implementation of this controller was great. Yes, there's some dust on it because obviously I haven't used it in quite some time. But I am a huge fan of the controller. And I think that this controller is still impressive today. I think the graphics are still impressive today. And I think the game selection is still impressive today. Even when you factor in games like Simpsons Hit and Run, which use that whole cel-shaded graphic style. I think this is a timeless graphic style, which can be used again and again and again. And we'll probably see this re-released on some type of new console because innovation is dead these days. But then even if you pull all of this to the side and just look at the Sony PlayStation 2 itself, this is a beautiful console. I mean, yeah, the fat version was fat, but you know, you had the Wi-Fi connection capabilities that you could plug up into the back. Obviously, you had your memory card slots here, and this was just a really fun system to play. I mean, I can't deny it. And then most of all, I mean, looking down here, you had your DVD capabilities, right? You could do more than just play games with it. You could play some DVDs. And that's essentially why I pulled it out. You know, DVDs have kind of transitioned to this place where I think VHS has gone and cassette tapes have gone. And I don't really know many people that have a device that will allow them to play a DVD. I think Blu-ray is still somewhat modern, and you'll probably have a lot more devices that have the capability of playing a Blu-ray disc than playing a DVD disc. But because we're in this transition of technology, you're able to get classic movies like The Matrix for super cheap. And I guess if you're into collecting DVDs, now is a great time to be a DVD collector because you can probably get them all at a super cheap price. I mean, if I waited a couple days, I probably could have picked this up for maybe 50 cents or so. But it's, you know, I just didn't want to run the risk and lose out on a movie that I really wanted to watch just to save $1.50. I figured, you know what, it was available for $2, so I picked it up. And I'm actually getting ready to watch it now. But before I did, I decided to just plug in the PS2 and kind of go a few rounds in some of these games here. But to me, when I look at the PlayStation 2 altogether, I mean, I think it's, you know, for me, it's just as relevant today as it was when I had it. Geez, I feel so old. But when I had it almost 20 years ago, and I was playing the PlayStation 2 and playing games and watching movies. I mean, the PlayStation 2 got me through college. It was a all-in-one entertainment system that allowed me to watch movies, play video games, and listen to music, the trifecta of entertainment. And I think it still holds up today. Graphically, it still holds up today. You know, as long as you took care of your PlayStation 2, it's still going to work for you. I think it's a very durable device, especially when you consider that, you know, it still uses the lens to read discs. To me, this is a great console. And I think for anyone, if you're interested in starting a game collection, you know, if you're getting into gaming and you don't want to go as retro as like a Sega Genesis, you don't want to go that far back, you're not trying to enter into the 2D era of the NES, the SNES, and that whole era, and you're trying to jump into the 3D era, I would stay away from the PlayStation 1 because I think a lot of those games, the graphics are just too hard to digest. I think it's easier for people to play a 2D game than it is for them to play the first generation of 3D games, because those just sucked. With the exception of the Nintendo 64. I think there are some Nintendo 64 games that graphically were beautiful, and I guess you could say the same for the PlayStation 1. There are some games that, as I'm talking now, do stand out. Like, I think Ape Escape on the PlayStation 1 graphically was pretty good. I think that game can stand the test of time. But I think if there were any games that tried to mimic like real life, you know, sceneries, or if they tried to, you know, mimic real life humanoid figures, I think it struggled. I think the only reason why GoldenEye got away with the poor graphics that it had was because of its gameplay. GoldenEye is just a very fun game to play. It also had amazing music as well. But I would kind of skip that 5th generation. I guess, is that the 5th generation? Yeah, I would skip the 5th generation and go straight to the 6th. Is this the 6th? Is the PlayStation 2 6th or 5th generation? Somebody let me know down in the comments. But I would definitely jump into the PlayStation 2 if you're starting a collection and you want to go straight to the 3D era. This is where 3D graphics really took a huge leap, in my opinion. This is where you saw a genuine leap, a genuine change in the graphic fidelity. And I'm not even showcasing games that really highlight that best on the PlayStation 2. If you think about games like Eco, if you think about games like Shadow of the Colossus, those games take graphics and just the whole 3D experience to a whole new level, which is why those games have been re-released time and time again. You can get Shadow of the Colossus on the PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4. I wouldn't be surprised if they released the greatest hits and put it on... Wait, did I say PlayStation 5? No, you can play it on the PlayStation 2, the PlayStation 3, and the PlayStation 4. That's where you can get Shadow of the Colossus. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if they released some type of greatest hits that made it to the PlayStation 5. Although I hope that if they do something like that, they give it some type of VR capability or make it even more interactive than it already was. But without beating a dead horse too much, do I think the PlayStation 2 is still impressive in 2024? Yes. I think it's a great place for you to start if you're thinking about starting a collection and going straight to the 3D era, because you can pick one of these up today for roughly around 60 bucks. We'll get you a controller. The console, you may need to spend another 5 to 10 bucks on a memory card, but the games are amazing, and they're some of the most cost-effective games when you consider video games from the retro era. But that does it for me. Figured I'd start the day off and get into some Matrix here and just check out some of my older games. Let me know what you think of the PlayStation 2 down in the comments below. And thanks for watching. It's the Y2K Collector. Take it easy.